Okay, so welcome to the Expat Money Chat geopolitical playbook. What I've done here is I've created a 5-part series that is going to help you explain to you the chain reactions from headlines, markets, your personal finances, minus the kind of media frenzy stroke panic. And we're kicking this one off, right, with Trump, Venezuela, Greenland, and the chain reaction that ultimately hits your money. There's a lot of countries that are not normally on the radar, yeah? And in general, Venezuela and Greenland may not be countries that come up that much on your radar. They may be, they may not, right? That's not for me to say. However, they can still move your fuel bill, inflation, and also your portfolio. Here's the map. Once you understand this chain reaction, every headline that you read is going to make a lot more sense, and you're going to be able to separate, the kind of media frenzy from what is actually happening. And there's a simple framework here that I'm going to use throughout this whole series, yeah? And there are 5 links to it, and it's basically energy and trade, inflation, interest rates, stocks and bonds, and FX, and very importantly, your wallet stroke portfolio. Link 1, energy and trade, yeah? That's fuel, shipping, and the cost of moving stuff around the world. When energy or trade gets disrupted, 2 link reactions, link 2, should I say, reacts. Inflation, that's the cost of everyday prices rising. Inflation then feeds link 3, which is interest rates, and that is what are set by central banks. Now, central banks don't set rates in a vacuum. They react to inflation and growth. Rates then hit link 4, stocks and bonds. Higher rates generally pressure valuations. Bonds move too. If yields rise, bonds can fall. And finally is link 5, which is what most expats, in my opinion, will feel the most. FX and your personal budget, plus also your investment returns. Your salary, like I've mentioned before, might be in one currency, your life in another, and your investments in a third. When volatility shows up, it shows up across the board and in your real life. So where does Venezuela plug into this? Well, it comes down to oil, sanctions, and trade. Venezuela is mainly an oil story, and oil is one of the fastest ways geopolitics hits inflation. The key issue is how much Venezuelan oil can reach the market and under what rules. Now, this is still really unknown. In early January 2026, Reuters reported that Chevron was in talks with the US government about expanding its Venezuelan license, which would potentially allow more crude exports and broader sales. Now, it's important to know what kind of oil is in Venezuela. It's a much heavier crude, meaning it's harder to process ultimately. Even if you don't follow the details, here's what matters. When markets think that supply can change, either more oil coming onto the market or less oil due to restrictions, energy prices will react. And that brings me to Greenland and where this Greenland fits into the picture. And this is really important, might be a lot more important than one may think. That's security, shipping, and minerals. Now, Greenland, people hear Greenland and may think, ice, polar bears, why should I care? Greenland plugs into a different part of the chain altogether, and that is security, shipping lanes, and critical resources. And I wanted to kind of give you the headline context here. Again, in January 2026, Greenland's Prime Minister publicly rejected renewed US efforts to acquire the island, which is pretty mad in itself, saying Greenland chooses Denmark and NATO. There's no real surprise there, right? And that was ahead of diplomatic talks involving senior US officials. Whether you view this as serious policy or just political theatre, markets, as we all know, do not like uncertainty. Certainly not in strategic regions, especially around the Arctic, like where shipping routes, excuse my accent, my pronunciation, military posture and resources are like really sensitive topics. Greenland also matters because the Arctic is increasingly linked to shipping strategy and critical minerals. If tensions rise, investors start, pricing in a risk premium into certain assets. Sometimes that could be energy, sometimes defence-related spending expectations, sometimes just broad risk-off behaviour. And for expats, the practical point is this: geopolitical tensions often increase currency volatility, which is, I'll mention again, is one of the biggest impacts that hits expats. Risk-off periods can move the US dollar. We're seeing a really weak US dollar at the moment, which is certainly impacting me. I don't know about you. And it can also move local currencies and change the value of overseas holdings relative to, many things, including your own living expenses. So even if Greenland doesn't change your day-to-day life directly, it can change the financial weather, the volatility environment you're living in, and a whole multitude of other things. So how do you follow this without doom scrolling every headline? Here are 3 indicators that matter more than opinions. Indicator 1, oil price trend. Not one-day spikes, the trend over a few weeks, months. Oil is the cleanest signal, I would say, for Venezuela-related inflation pressure. That would be my opinion. Indicator 2, inflation expectations and bond yields. If yields are rising because inflation expectations are rising, markets usually tighten up. You don't need to be a bond nerd. Just watch whether yields are climbing steadily, and you'll get a picture of what's happening. And indicator 3, your currency pairs, which is, if you're an expat, watch the pair that actually hits your life. Salary currency v spending currency, and spending currency v investment currency. So that's the map: energy and trade, inflation rates, stocks and bonds, FX, and your wallet stroke portfolio stroke living situation. In episode 2, we're going deeper on Venezuela and oil, what changes actually matter, and how it can flow into inflation and into rates. And in further episodes, we're going to be covering a whole other bunch of really useful information, like tariff and trade war mechanisms, what happens if foreign countries start dumping US Treasury yields, etc., etc. So make sure and get on them, because it's super, super useful. If you're an expat, comment below. Where do you live? What currency are you paid in? That can help me tailor the examples to what you're actually dealing with. And also, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments box or drop us an email at expatinfo, should I say, at Expat Money Chat. Really appreciate you taking the time to watch these videos. I hope you find them useful. And thanks for your time. Cheers.